All right, good day, students. I'm coming today with this follow-up video because hopefully you were able to get the software downloaded from Dreamweaver. And what I'm going to try to do with this little short video is I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the differences and some of the nuances between what the book has, because it is a little bit different, and the version that you downloaded, which I'm sure is the 2017 version of the Dreamweaver software. So we're going to look at a couple things. I'm going to show you how things are changed a little bit. As you can see right out of the bat, the difference between the book and the interface, it looks a little bit different. So, but the way we do things and the way it goes through the book is basically still the same. It's just that things may be in a little different place. So I'm going to try to catch up on those. So the first thing it has you do is it has you open an HTML document. So when that front splash screen comes up, right here it just shows you, all the current things are the same as it does in the book from a splash screen, only just in a little different layout. So what we're going to do is we're going to just open a new HTML document simply by clicking on that. And what that does is that opens up what's known as the split view. It talks a little bit about switching between the views in the book, and as opposed to being in a tab on the left, the views are now up in the center. We can go strictly to a code view. We can go to a split view. It shows us our design window and our code down below. And we'll be dealing with the code a little bit on and off during the next weeks. And then finally there's the design view, but underneath the design view you can switch and go to live view there. It's not a separate button like it shows in the book. So we got things that are just a little bit different in the way they're laid out. But like I said, the instructions in the book still follow along in the same. So I'm going to go back to my design view there, because that's mostly what we'll be working on through the next 4 or 5 weeks here. If we look around the interface a little bit, over here at the top we have our different panel groups. First one I'd like to look at over here is our insert panel. Oh, I don't know why it keeps flashing like that. But this is how we're going to put things into our document window, and you can see it's once again a little bit different. It's the way it's divided out. It's actually now divided into categories, whereas when we hit that drop down arrow there, come on, there's different categories underneath that drop down arrow for doing just basic HTML, for doing a form, for doing templates, and a few other things that we won't deal with in this class. We're mostly going to be dealing with the HTML tab up there. And these are all the different things that we can put in under the HTML tab. Different types of lists, tables, different types of navigation, things like that. So that's kind of an important panel for us, but it just looks a little bit different than what's shown in the book. All right. One of the big differences is as you're going through the instructions is on page 11 it says it talks about the workspace switcher. Well, that's now located up here on the right side, and if you hit that arrow, there's now only 2 workspaces available for us, the developer and the standard. We're mostly going to just be dealing with the standard workspace. So where it tells you to reset the compact, we're not going to worry about that. What we'll be doing is we'll be resetting the standard when it comes to that set of instructions. And all that does is that puts everything back the way it was originally. All right. A few other little things. The help menus are going to look a little bit different when you get into that lesson 2 part of it. So that's going to be a little bit different for us. So as I was saying, the first thing that has you do, I'm kind of jumping around here just a little bit. I'm trying to clip things together so that they make a little more sense for you. But first thing it has you do is it has you open a file, and it has you open that DW1_1. Alright, so I'm going to jump out and do that. I've got these files stored in several places, so I'm going to go into the Dreamweaver folder that I created and open up that first chapter file and chapter 1, and there's my DW1_1. Okay. Some different things happen. One of the issues with going with 17 is that it was known as a ability of being able to jump back and forth. So what we're going to have to do is we're basically going to have to go back in and just do a little editing in the code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to my code view, where I'm at there, and it's showing me right where I'm at. I'm in this fluid grid type thing here. But the code that we actually want to edit is, we want to edit, if you come up here across the top where it says source code, boilerplate, striped styles, CSS, double click on that striped styles.css. And if you look up here under 15, and this is actually more of a comment that creates a problem for us than it does, than an actual part of our actual coding. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and we're going to just click and highlight. Oops, I collapsed it there. I didn't want to collapse it, I wanted to highlight it. We're going to highlight everything from line 15 clear through line 28. And that has to do with Dreamweaver Fluid Grid properties. We're just going to hit our delete key, make sure that forward slash, I'm going to backspace out. Alright. And then I'm going to go back to my live view. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a file, and I'm just going to save this file at that point. And I'm going to keep it that same name for now. Yes, I'll overwrite it. Okay, to actually close that file. My computer is being really goofy today. Say yes. And then I'm going to reopen it. And now you can read live or the design view, either one. We're going to have to do this with another file or two as we go along, but that's just kind of a little good coding practice for us to go through that process. So or we can switch back to our live view. The design view, kind of look through the interface as I was showing you before. Another thing I wanted to show you at this point is up here across the top is some of our menu options. Generally, if it asks you to open something up, another panel that we'll be dealing with a lot is the CSS designer over here. So that panel is available to us. Wow, this thing's so slow. And when we get into this in a couple weeks, you'll see it's really it looks like it's a little bit daunting, but it's really not all that bad. Generally, if you can't find a panel or a window, they're listed under the Windows menu, context menu at the top. One of the windows that we're going to have open most of the time is our properties, and you can see that it just opens a little property bar across the bottom that we're going to use to deal with how we change things on the pages. So you may want to just have that open all the time also. Alright, so one of the first things that it has you do is it has you set up a location for your site. And we're getting a little further along in the book, like up to page 122. Hopefully you're able to follow along with most of the instructions in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our files menu up here at the top. And we're going to say, okay, I want to create a new site. Okay, so we're going to create a new file, and actually where we're going to create it is we're going to create it on our desktop. So I'm just going to click on desktop items because that's where I actually want to create this file at. And so if I right mouse click on that, I can add a new folder. And I'm going to call this folder the striped umbrella. striped umbrella. I'm going to call this folder the striped umbrella. Hit enter on my keyboard. So I now have a location where I'm going to be able to store my files at. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to manage sites. And I'm going to create a new site. And my site name once again is going to be The Striped Umbrella. I'm going to save that. Okay. Alright, so what we need to do now is if we double click on that, it's going to ask us some information like, okay, where are we going to store our files? What's our local site folder? So I'm just going to click on that little folder icon out there in the end. I'm going to go to my desktop, and I should have a folder out on my desktop now called The Striped Umbrella. And that's where I'm going to be storing my files. So I'm going to say select that folder. I'm also going to open up the advanced settings and go to the local info. And I'm going to do this, and this is a little out of sequence with the book, but we're going to do it this way anyway. I'm going to create a default images folder. I'm going to click on the find folder there out on the end. And underneath the striped umbrella, I'm going to right mouse click, create a new folder. And I'm going to name that folder Assets. Say select folder, hit save, say OK, say done. Now over under our files, you can see up here on the upper right side we have a folder called the Striped Umbrella, and our site is The Striped Umbrella. And if I hit that down arrow beside it, we have a folder in there called Assets, which is where we'll store all our images and some of the other things that we use inside our site as we get going. Okay, that kind of gets you to page 124. If you get up to page 125 where it says set up web server access, we are not using web server access, so you can actually skip the instructions there on page 125. Alright, so coming on up then to page 128 after you've read all the other information there, it's asking you about setting, adding folders and setting the default images folder. That's what we just did a few minutes ago, so we've already got that part accomplished. Alright, so on page 130 it's having us create our home page, our index page, and what it has us do is it has us open up that dw1_2.html, and we're going to have to do the same thing with this page that we did with the page in the previous exercise, where we're going to have to go up here and go into that SU styles area and open up the code and delete that fluid grid code lines 15 to 28. So if we would just go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and delete that and take that out. I've already done that. I'm kind of getting a little step ahead because I'm trying to cut down on how long this video is for you. Alright, so we got 1-2 open. We've gone into, I'm going to go to my code view here, and I'm going to delete lines 15 through 28 so it looks similar to this. I'll go back to my live view or my design view. It's probably going to be just a live view, so I'm going to have, I'll go to the design view there. And then I'm going to save this file as, I'm going to do a file and save as. Okay. I apologize for how slow this thing is running today, but that's okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out to my desktop, to that striped umbrella folder that we created, that we're going to store all our files in. That's going to be our root folder there. And I'm going to save this as index. If you've done the reading in there, you'll know that all home pages for websites, they either need to be named index or default .html. So we're just going to name this one index for now. And I'm going to hit save. And it's going to ask me, do I want to update the links? We're going to say no, because we're going to copy the files over, and you'll see how this comes out. Currently, right now in our striped umbrella site, we don't have the extra files that we're going to need. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to go out and copy some files over, the images to our assets folder, and copy in those few extra files like this boilerplate and this SU styles and this JavaScript file, so that our site actually operates correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize Dreamweaver, and I'm going to open up my striped umbrella folder. And I'm on page 131 now, if you're following along in the book or wondering where we're at. So you can see inside there I have that index page that we just created in my assets folder. I'm going to go ahead and open up my external files there that I've downloaded. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy out the files that we need to make our site work correctly. So I'm going to be copying out the boilerplate. I'm going to hold down my control key. I'm going to copy out the SU styles, which is down here, and that file that's called respond min, which is actually a JavaScript file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight those three files. I'm going to right click on them and copy. I'm going to go to my striped umbrella folder, and I'm going to paste those right in the root of my root folder. Alright, and then the next thing I'm going to need then is I'm going to need my, out of my assets folder for chapter 1, I'm going to need my striped umbrella banner, which is the SU banner there. And I'm also going to need a file called SU logo, which is right next to it there. So those two files there. And what I'm going to do with those then is I'm going to copy those into my assets folder. Don't really, you don't need to be real concerned about how this all works, because when we get into cascading style sheets in a few weeks here, it'll make a little more sense for you. All right, so now I'm going to go back into Dreamweaver. And you can see those files have been copied over into my files under my striped umbrella site. If I open up the assets folder, I got my two things in there, and my site is looking much better. My index page is looking much better. Alright, so the last thing we need to do then with this chapter is we need to create the pages that we're going to be using here over the next few weeks. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually create some new files or add pages to our website, and that's easy enough to do. There's actually a couple ways to do it. If we click on our site, and then we come up here to this little tab button up here in the corner, and say we want to add a new file, not a folder but a file, and it's automatically going to put that HTML extension on it for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to add these files, and if you're following along in the book, I'm on like 132 here. So we're going to add some pages, and the first page that we're going to add is about us. So we're going to type in about _ us. All right, then we're going to add some other pages. We're going to add another new file. Oops, I'm not clicked on my site. And this one is going to be spa. Hit enter. And we're going to continue to do that for a few more pages. So I'm going to click on the striped umbrella on my site, go up, add a file, new file. This one is going to be cafe. Click on my site again, add a new file. This one is going to be activities. Okay, add another new file. Oops, I click on my site first. Always click on your site first so it knows where to put it. File, new file, cruises. Okay, click on my site, add a new file, and our final page is going to be called fishing. So those are the pages that we'll be creating as we build this project, but those we'll already have those in there for us. So what I need you to do then, what your homework assignment for this week is once you get this part of it done and get those pages created, what you need to do is you need to do a screen capture, and I've got directions in there on how to do a screen capture if you want. And then I need to see just this portion here. I just need to see your files panel so that I can see that you got your files in there the right way and you have the right files in, and that'll be important before we go any further. That's it for today. Thank you.